All right, the moment has finally arrived. It is time to talk about my favorite 4K releases that came out in 2023. Let's do it. Hey, what is up everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken. Today, guys, we are here to rank my favorite 4K releases of 2023, and I am doing a top 15 today, right? That's right, everybody's doing top 10s, but I'm gonna do a top 15, and I'm gonna tell you why. First off, these videos are always extremely challenging to make because I watched over 150 4K releases that came out. I added all of them up, and that wasn't even including box sets. I lumped those in together. So if you really break it down, I probably saw 170, 180 movies on 4K in 2023 that were released on 4K in 2023, and I only watched 330 movies total. So the bulk of what I watched in 2023 were 4K discs. So I watched so many 4Ks, and I'll be honest, a lot of them were really great. Like, a lot of them were really great. But a certain few did stand above the pack. And when I really got to break it down, I whittled it down to 25. I whittled it down to 23. And then I was like, I can't whittle it down anymore. Like, this is crazy. So many of these releases, they just need to be talked about. This is a celebration of 4K in 2023 because I just really feel like it hit its stride in 2023. I thought everybody was operating on, just firing on all cylinders. Across the board, we saw some great 4K discs that came out in 2023, so I couldn't possibly narrow it down to just 10. So, like I said, I've got 23, I've got my top 15, and then I've also got some honorable mentions as well. And I think it should always be pointed out, this is my opinion, okay? And I'm basing my opinion, these are my favorites. I may say the best on the thumbnail or whatever I decide to put in the title. These are my personal favorites of the ones that I saw. These are the 4Ks that I feel like best represent the year of 2023 for me and my movie watching experience. So they may not all be the ones that you consider to be the best 4Ks of 2023, but they are the ones that I consider to be the best 4Ks of 2023. And I will also say right here and now that I don't have a ton. I think I maybe have a couple brand new films that came out on 4K because I put more stock in classic film restorations, like a movie that didn't look so great that came out in the 50s that I've seen on VHS, that I saw on DVD, and that has gotten that restoration, that upgrade. That impresses me more than a new movie that was shot on a 4K camera and then they put it on a disc. Okay, so that's kind of where my headspace is at when I'm making these kind of lists. The restorations are really what impressed me. Like the movies that I remember, like I said, watching on a small box TV, VHS, like very low quality that I have seen like I've never seen before. Like that kind of stuff just really impresses me. So that needs to be said as well. But I do have some newer films on this list. But all right, we got all that out of the way. Let me know as well what some of your favorite 4K releases in 2023 were in the comment section. I want to know your top 10. I want to know your top 15. If you want to leave me, I could have done a top 50. If you want to leave me your top 50 4Ks in the comment section below, go ahead and do it. But all right, look, I got all that out of the way. Let's go ahead and get into it. We're over 4 minutes into this damn video already. So honorable mentions, guys. I've got 7 honorable mentions. Like I said, I watched so much this year. It was so tough to whittle it down. Dawn of the Dead was, I think, the first 4K that I watched in 2023 that just really impressed me. This came out from Scream Factory back in January, and I was just really blown away. I got Dawn of the Dead on Blu-ray, and looking at that Blu-ray and looking at this 4K, it was like night and day. Zack Snyder's direction and stylistic approach to this film, this remake of George A. Romero's film, it's just a visually stunning movie, and on 4K, it just looked absolutely fantastic. The colors were so rich and so vibrant, and I thought that this looked almost like a Vinegar Syndrome 4K. You could just tell it retained that very natural grain structure. It was very grainy, but in all the best ways, and it just had so much detail and so much color, and the blood looked great, and the zombies looked great. Everything looked great in this release right here. I did a review. I probably review most of these that I'm going to talk about. So The Nutty Professor with Jerry Lewis. I really loved this release from the Paramount Presents line. Paramount Presents doesn't always do the best work in 4K, but to me this was this year's Blue Hawaii that came out last year in 2022. That actually made, I think, my top 10 of 2022, the one with Elvis in it. Elvis's Blue Hawaii, I think is what it's called. That was a stunning 4K disc. This was also stunning. The colors in this movie, the Purple Pit, I believe is what the club's called, but that looked outstanding in 4K. So I had to put Jerry Lewis. This movie's so great too. And I believe this had a lot of new special features. I think there was like 3 new special features here. So I take that into account as well. Picture quality, you know, I can't go as much into sound. I don't have that full Atmos setup. I don't have that 5.1. I've got a sound bar that simulates that, and I've also got a subwoofer. So I can't really speak the sound too much. But picture quality, special features, packaging, I've already done a packaging video, so that factors in very little. Oh, the actual movie itself. Of course, if I really like a movie, that might edge out another one that I think is kind of on the same level, picture quality wise. But Nutty Professor's great. It looked beautiful. We also got Sleepy Hollow. This was a gorgeous 4K, looked absolutely stunning. You know, I honestly almost put this one in my top 15, but when I was shuffling other stuff around, some things just had to be cut, and Sleepy Hollow did make the cut, but it's a gorgeous 4K. Absolutely love that 4K. 65, I don't see a lot of people talking about this, and regardless of what you feel about the actual movie itself, and this is a new movie in my best of, regardless of what you feel about the actual movie itself, this is a Sony release. The sound is top tier. Like, this just sounded amazing. Like, we were listening to this full blast. I watched it with my family, and you could just feel everything around you. It definitely gives your sound system a workout, but the picture quality is excellent. And I wanted to hype up this release. I believe it's on sale right now too for maybe like 15 bucks, but I recommend it. And I actually did enjoy the movie. I know some people didn't, but I thought it was a pretty cool science fiction story. If you just watch it as a science fiction film and not like a Jurassic Park type film, which I think a lot of people went in with those expectations, it's actually pretty good. I liked this movie quite a bit, and it looked gorgeous on 4K, so I had to put that. One of the best discs I feel like I watched of a newer movie this year, 65. Definitely check that out. I don't see like anybody talking about this one. I hyped it up quite a bit when it came out, but The Lighthouse from Arrow Video, I actually imported this one from the UK. This was gorgeous in 4K. This movie's in black and white, so black and white just looks stunning in 4K anyway. Absolutely gorgeous in 4K, and this included a brand new documentary that wasn't on anything else. A24 did a 4K release, but I would recommend this one over the A24 one. And that could be on the same level picture quality wise, but it doesn't have that extra documentary that this one has, the making of The Lighthouse, which I watched the whole thing. I gained a whole new appreciation for this movie. I really love this movie now. It's such a great movie. I was kind of unsure about it when I saw it in the theaters back in 2019. Watched it again a couple of years ago. Still a little unsure about it, but did enjoy it a little bit more. Watched it with this 4K restoration, and I was like, I'm sold. This is just one of the best movies I've seen in the past 5 years. I love Robert Eggers as a director, but this is a great release. The 4K looked outstanding. And the sound, too, on that with the fog horns, the light horns, whatever you call those, the horns on the lighthouse, you could just hear those like reverberating my entire basement. It was awesome. Witness, this one almost made my top 15. I love this movie, absolutely love this movie. It looked gorgeous on 4K, had some great special features. I've talked about it before, did a whole review on that one. Silver Bullet, I almost put this one in the top 15. You know how high I was on Silver Bullet. I just talked about this one. It looked gorgeous. Scream Factory's been doing great work all year. This one looked gorgeous for sure. So that's my honorable mentions. Let's go into my top 15. So these are the best of the best, guys. Everything that I'm getting ready to go into, I would recommend to you 110% to pick it up. Without hesitation, no issues at all with any of these releases. I thought they were all perfect across the board. So let's start with another Arrow. Look, you're going to be seeing a lot of, I'm an Arrow Video fanboy. I'll admit it right now. I'm an Arrow Video fanboy. They send me their stuff to review too, but honestly, that's not the reason. Warner Brothers sends me their stuff. Paramount says I don't hype them up as much as I do Arrow Video, but I am an Arrow Video shill. I'm a fanboy. I am a mark for Arrow Video, and for good reason. They do spectacular work. So you're going to see them pop up more than a few times in my list, but they did great work, and I can't exclude them if they did the best work of the year, in my opinion. Anyway, Blood and Black Lace is coming in at my number 15. I really enjoyed this movie, kind of a proto slasher, one of the first of its kind, I would say. Everyone wants to argue about what's the first slasher film. You can say Psycho. There's probably something that came out before Psycho that somebody could point to, but this is a movie that was really kind of influenced by Psycho and then went on to influence the entire giallo genre. This was directed by Mario Bava, and you know, I like the movie, okay? It's not my favorite giallo mystery film of all time, but the transfer on this was absolutely stunningly gorgeous. This movie just has such great visuals, such great colors, purples, pinks, and greens and yellows just all throughout this movie, and it just looked great. So many shadows that were just perfectly contrasted with this 4K restoration and the HDR, and I thought it looked stunning. And there was all kinds of great features on this as well, and this is a great box set. There's a slipcover on here, and it's just magnificent. And a lot of people did recommend this one to me and wanted me to do a full review. I didn't get a chance to do a full review. I think I talked about it in another video, but I'm giving it its props right here and now. It made my top 15 4Ks of 2023, so you know how much I love it. But this looked so gorgeous in 4K. I can't say enough good things about it. Blood and Black Lace, great movie as well. Let's talk about Vinegar Syndrome, and From Beyond on 4K is making my number 14. This one also came out in January. When they announced this, I got so excited because I've seen From Beyond. Scream Factory did the title a few years back, and I know how gorgeous this movie could look in 4K. So as soon as they announced this, I'm like, 100%, I am getting this. It has so much colors. Like, you think, you know, Blood and Black Lace has a lot of purples and pinks and stuff like that, but that's pretty much all this movie is, just bathed in purples and pinks and great monster and creature effects all throughout. Everything looks so slimy and realistic and awesome. I just love this movie so much, and in 4K just looks so damn good. And they actually included a brand new documentary in this release as well, which was super cool, by Vinegar Syndrome. I think it included Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs as well. And this movie's directed by Stuart Gordon, based on a H.P. Lovecraft, I think, short story. And it's a great movie. I love Reanimator. I love Reanimator, don't get me wrong, but of the Stuart Gordon directed films, horror films, I think I prefer this one over Reanimator. I love From Beyond so much, and Barbara Crampton really is something else in this movie, and in 4K, just a whole new something else. But From Beyond's great. That's my number 14. All right, coming in at number 13, I talked about this one in box sets. I think this is the only repeats. I don't think I have any other repeats here. I really tried to not cross over with my other top videos, but sometimes that's going to happen because some just nail it on all fronts. And It Follows is one of those releases. It Follows is my number 13. Lucky number 13. I love It Follows. I think it's a modern horror classic. It might be the best horror film of the past 10 years. I think this and The Witch are probably like neck and neck for my favorite horror film of the past 10 years. But I love It Follows. This looked absolutely gorgeous, flawless on 4K. Second Sight Films has a reputation for doing some of the best work in 4K, and they absolutely nailed it here. So It Follows, coming at my number 13. I love that release. Tons of great features, and as I showed you all in the packaging video, great packaging, booklets, and all kinds of stuff in this release. Love that release. All right, coming in at number 12 is a studio release. I've got boutiques, I've got studios, guys. I try to cover all the bases with this. When I'm doing my top 15, when I'm really thinking about it, I'm like, let me try to show love to all the studios, all the labels, while also, you know, of course, picking the best of the best of those. But that's kind of how I determine these types of lists. So I'm giving some love to Paramount here because I really feel like Paramount stepped it up in a big way in 2023. Everybody was down on Paramount after Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and other releases as well. But that was the big one in 2022 that just really soured people on Paramount. And they came back in a big bad way in 2023, and they did one of the best 4K restorations that I have ever seen from a movie that came out in 1983. One of my personal favorite movies. I love this movie. It's cheesy. It's cheesy 80s goodness, but I love it. Flashdance on 4K with this nice golden shower cover. I thought this looked magnificent on 4K, and when I watched this movie, this is the first movie from Paramount on 4K that I looked at, and I was like, wow, Paramount because I wasn't expecting too much given Paramount's track record going into this. I'm like, they probably phoned it in. I'm sure it's not that great on 4K. But I watched it and I was like, oh shit, did Paramount just figure out how to do a proper 4K restoration? Because this was absolutely stunningly beautiful, such great detail, such great coloring with that HDR, and it had a nice natural grain structure. Nothing seemed overly DNR'd or waxy or unnatural. Everything just seemed so natural and really spoke to the time period that this movie came out. And Jennifer Beals in 4K, guys, you know, do I need to say anything else? It's just stunning transfer. Great movie. If you haven't seen Flashdance, I love this film. It's cheesy, but I really love it. The music's great as well. Flashdance is my number 12. All right, coming at number 11, we go back to Scream Factory. I told you guys they did some great work in 2023. We got to talk about The Burning on 4K. This one blew me away. And I know a lot of people were really down on Scream Factory doing all the re-releases this year. This was a Blu-ray that came out in 2013 from Scream Factory. So this was a 4K 10 years in the making. So the upgrade right here is really night and day from that Blu-ray release. It is really a massive upgrade of that Blu-ray. I went back and checked it out. It doesn't look great. That Blu-ray they did of The Burning back in 2013, I'm sure it looked good back then for the time. The people that grew up with it on DVD, I'm sure it looked great. But compared to that Blu-ray, going to 4K, like, oh my God, this looks so good. And I love camp slashers in 4K. I was one of the few people that was a fan of the Friday the 13th 4K. I thought that actually looked really good. But this is honestly how a camp slasher film should look in 4K. Just absolutely beautiful. Most of this movie takes place in the daylight, so you get all the coloring of the trees and you get to see everybody in full focus, full daylight, all the details, so nothing's too dark or anything. You don't have to worry about any of that. You get to see Cropsey in all of his glory. You get to see the blood, that scene, the boat scene where he comes up and just splits everybody and cuts everybody. That's such an awesome sequence, and 4K looks great. So this movie just blew me away. The outdoor setting, just the look of everybody, such great detail, skin tones, everything was just so magnificent and perfect with this 4K release. I absolutely loved it. The Burning is my number 11. Almost made my top 10, to be honest. But all right, let's get into my top 10 4K releases of 2023. And we're going to start off with Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I thought this was gorgeous on 4K. I didn't think it could get any better from Paramount after I watched Flashdance, but Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I don't feel like this one's getting the love it deserves either in 2023, and I think it should be getting a little bit more love. This was a great restoration of one of the best teen 80s comedies that there is. One of the most iconic teen 80s characters of all time, Matthew Broderick as Ferris Bueller, but this looked so damn stunning in 4K. That car, the city, just everything. All the detail on the characters, on the outfits, like everything was so natural and just fully realized. And I was just blown away by this transfer. I thought it was one of the best of the year, and I don't think enough people are talking about it. So I put it in my top 10. Ferris Bueller's Day Off on 4K is definitely an excellent 4K restoration. All right, coming in at my number 9, guys, I'm cheating a little bit, but these are two new movies. I thought it was appropriate to put these two movies together, though, at my number 9. And these are two movies that came out in 2023. They came out on the same weekend. And it really just, when you look back on movies in 2023, you're going to think of these two movies. They really just kind of represent film in 2023. So I thought it was appropriate to put them together at my number 9. And that is Barbenheimer on 4K is coming in at my number 9. So I was going to do Oppenheimer, you know, on my list for sure, because this was a gorgeous 4K, and Christopher Nolan does not like HDR. He doesn't like Dolby Vision, and this is without all of that, but it still looks stunning. This is one of the best 4Ks I've ever seen of a new movie. He shot it on film, so it has that like nice filmic look to it, but it's just a gorgeous film in general. I saw it in the theaters. It looked great in there, and it looked absolutely spectacular on 4K, but Barbie also looked great on 4K, and I loved watching Barbie on 4K because this is a new movie that's, you know, based in another world, a fantasy world, whatever, a Barbie world. But it is not the CGI to hell, green screen to hell. Like, they actually built these sets. They built these Barbie playhouses. So because the sets were real and Greta Gerwig actually took the time to build these sets, this movie looked so much better on 4K than most of the modern films that I see on 4K today. So Barbie looked spectacular. This was one of the best 4Ks that I had seen all year, and so was Oppenheimer. So I felt it was appropriate to put them both together on this list. Barbenheimer on 4K is my number 9. Now, coming at number 8 is a Scream Factory 4K that I do not think is getting the credit that it deserves. This is one of the most gorgeous 4Ks that I've seen all year, and I honestly think it's because not enough people watch this 4K, and that is Night of the Comets on 4K. I did a short on this, and this is absolutely gorgeous in 4K. This may be Scream Factory's best work that they've ever done. That orange skyline, Catherine Mary Stewart, I'm thinking of the scene where she's riding down the road in the motorcycle and she's kind of going past all the buildings and it kind of pans up and shows the buildings. You can see the reflection in the window. You can just see all that stuff so clearly. The outfits that Catherine Mary Stewart and Kelly Maroney are wearing just kind of, you know, just kind of really pop with that HDR. It's like blues and teals and pinks, and they're in that little kind of nightclub place for a little bit. You have all the neon signs and everything. There's just so many like jaw-dropping like moments in this visually that it just lends itself so perfectly to a 4K. And this was also another long-awaited 4K upgrade. I think the Blu-ray from Scream Factory came out in 2014, so this was in a massive need of an upgrade. So Night of the Comet looks great on 4K. Highly recommend that one. That one's coming in my number 8. If you haven't heard anybody talk about that, get that release. It looks great on 4K, and the movie is super fun. I love it. And coming at number 7 is 12 Angry Men from Kino Lorber. So I watched a lot of really great black and white 4K restorations this year. The Maltese Falcon looked fantastic on 4K, but this might be my favorite first-time watch in all of 2023. I had never seen 12 Angry Men before I watched this movie. What a timeless classic. Like, this movie is stunning. I immediately gave it a 5 out of 5 without hesitation. And the 4K job that Kino Lorber did with this release is just spectacular. This movie looks stunning in 4K. It's one location. It all takes place in the room, you know, so there's not an opportunity for a bunch of like stunning sets and scenery and stuff like that. But the close-up shots on everybody's faces, you can just see everybody so crystal clear, and you can see all the emoting that they're doing in their faces, all the face acting that they're doing. You can make everything out so crystal clear. And I imagine if you watch this movie on TV, on VHS, on DVD, in the theaters back in the 50s or 60s when it came out, like, you're seeing it in a way that you had never seen it before. So I had to put this on a list pretty high up because I love black and white in 4K. But this movie is so spectacular. I just loved it so much. And the 4K just looks so good. And this release actually included the William Friedkin directed remake that came out in 1997, I believe. So yeah, that was really awesome. They included a bonus. Sometimes Kino does that. Sometimes Criterion does that as well. Included a bonus movie in this release. So this is so worth it. Next Kino sale, if they have this, if you see this drop in price on Amazon, it does from time to time, definitely pick this up. This movie is stunning. It's so relevant today. This is a truly a timeless movie. Like, this is a movie that if somebody watches this movie and says they don't like it, I will never understand you as a person, because this is an impossible movie to not like. That nobody is allowed to not like this movie. Movies are subjective, but you have to love 12 Angry Men. It's such a good movie, timeless classic, and it looks great on 4K. That's my number 7. Coming at number 6, I just reviewed this. I was so blown away by this 4K and this movie as well. 12 Angry Men was my favorite first-time watch of 2023. The Color Purple was my second favorite first-time watch of 2023. I love this movie, but the 4K looks spectacular. I think this is the best work that Warner Brothers did all year. This just looked absolutely incredible on 4K. And I can't say enough good things about it. Steven Spielberg directed, so you know the visuals are fantastic. Cinematography, perfect. But this has tons of great outdoor sceneries and settings and costumes and all that stuff. Just looked gorgeous in 4K. Color Purple on 4K looked absolutely spectacular. And coming at number 5, I was pretty high up on this film earlier in the year. I think I did a top 10 the first 3 months, and this ranked number 1 in that top 10. And now it's scooted down to number 5 because there's been a lot of stuff come out since, but it's still a great release. It's still one that I think is a little bit slept on. Dragon Slayer is coming in at my number 5 from Paramount. I love this release. I love this movie. It's such a great movie. It looked fantastic on 4K. That dragon, when he comes out, there's a little bit of a buildup in this movie. The dragon doesn't reveal himself till a little bit later, but when that dragon finally comes out and you get to see it in all of its glory and stunning 4K, and the sound kicks in. This has Dolby Atmos, which a lot of people are always calling for these classic movies to have Dolby Atmos. when that kicks in, I swear to God, I was sitting out there in my living room with the sound going. I said I don't have a full setup, but I do have a soundbar that kind of simulates that Atmos. I had the subwoofer. I had it cranked all the way up. I felt the dragon growling. I felt him revving up his fire breath, you know, through my sound system. It felt so real. It was so immersive, and it just made me love this movie that much more. And this has, I believe, and you don't get this too often with new studio releases, but I believe this had like 7 new special features in it as well, which were just fantastic. I think there was a new audio commentary as well with Guillermo del Toro. So this was a great release. It was only $20 when it came out. You had a bunch of new features. The 4K looked great. You had Dolby Atmos. And the movie's fantastic. I love the movie. Such a great fantasy movie if you're a fan of that kind of stuff. And I thought it looked absolutely fantastic. None of people are talking about Dragon Slayer, so that is my number 5. And coming in at my number 4, guys, look, we got to get into a little bit of sleaze territory here and talk about a Vinegar Syndrome release. And this is Showgirls, coming in at my number 4. So I think when I did my midway top 10, I think it was in June or something, I think Showgirls was like number 2. I was very high up on this 4K. The movie itself, it's directed by Paul Verhoeven. I've been watching it since I was like 12 or 13 for obvious reasons. But watching it like now, I watched it in an entirely different light. I actually watched it with my wife for the first time. She had never seen the movie before. It's actually a pretty good movie. It's a little ridiculous. It's way over the top. It's a little satirical, but I think Paul Verhoeven kind of meant it that way. Elizabeth Berkley is really giving it her all in this film, good or bad. She's giving it her all in this movie. But the 4K just looked magnificent. Like, I can't say enough good things about this 4K. Vinegar Syndrome always does spectacular. Say what you want about the movies they release, they always do spectacular work in 4K. You can see all the dancers, you know, their sweat. You can see beads of sweat like all over their bodies. There's so many boobs in this movie. It's not even funny. Like, you're almost desensitized to all the boobs. You get to see all those in 4K, guys. I know you want to see that. Come on. Boobs in 4K for like an hour straight. Come on now. The pool scene in 4K. Come on. I'm just trying to sell Showgirls at this point. Look, the movie's ridiculous. The 4K is beautiful. That Vegas setting, all the colors and lights, it just looks stunning. So Showgirls has to come in my top 5. That is coming in at number 4. And coming in at number 3, we go from objectifying females to celebrating how badass they are. Thelma and Louise on 4K is my number 3. I absolutely loved this 4K. I thought it looked absolutely fantastic. I thought that this was going to be my number 1 before I really started breaking it down and before I watched a couple other 4Ks to close out the year. But Thelma and Louise was really the front runner for me all year. And I didn't hear anybody really hype this one up all throughout the year. And I don't know why, because this, to me, like, this movie came out in 1991, directed by Ridley Scott. When I watched this, I was like, is this a new movie that just came on Netflix? Like, this looks like a brand new film. The picture was so clean. It was so crisp, but while at the same time, still felt like a film. It still had that grain structure that looked beautiful and stunning. The HDR, the colors, the setting, the desert, the mountains, the skyline, the car, Gina Davis, Susan Sarandon, like Brad Pitt, everybody looks so great in 4K. The movie looks stunning. I was just blown away watching this movie in 4K. And then I was like, hey guys, Thelma Louise is awesome. It's one of the best of the year. And I felt like I heard crickets. I don't think anybody really hyped this movie up with me. But geez Louise, I just thought it was one of the best 4Ks I had seen all year. So Thelma and Louise is a spectacular 4K. I think there's a interview with Ridley Scott in here as well. So there's some great features. And you got a nice digibook packaging as well that's just beautiful. But yeah, this was stunning. This is definitely coming in my top 3. Number 3, Thelma and Louise. All right, we are down to my top 2, and I watched both of these fairly recently. I've got reviews up, so if you've seen those reviews, you know how hyped up I was on these 2 releases. And the first one I got to talk about is Barbarella. And this was a blow-away 4K in my opinion. And this is a movie that's such an oddity. I don't even know how to really describe this movie other than it's like a space fantasy adventure epic science fiction horror sleaze. Like, there's so many different ways you could describe this movie. It's such a wild film, so I really enjoyed my time watching the movie. But the 4K just looks excellent. Arrow Video is really on top of the world right now when it comes to the 4Ks. I think that Arrow Video is doing the best work. I just think that they are doing some of the best work in 4K. This looked absolutely stunning. There's so many gorgeous colors throughout this movie that just really pop with that 4K, that HDR, that Dolby Vision. All of it just comes together to deliver one of the best picture quality presentations of 2023. And this release in general is just fantastic. Like, if I didn't know I was going to have this in my top 15 4Ks, I would have showed this in best box sets, because the artwork on this is just gorgeous. And you have the original artwork. There was another one that was an original artwork release, but I had to get this artwork. This artwork is just stunning. You got booklets, you got posters. This is a chunky box set is what I like to call it. But yeah, this movie is just so wild. And Jane Fonda is wild in it. And she also looks great in 4K. So I cannot recommend Barbarella on 4K. Now, this is my number 2 of the entire year of 2023. Almost came in at my number 1. If I'm being honest, if it wasn't for this release that came out and just blew me away. I keep talking about all these movies blowing me away, but this one just blew me away, and I had such a fantastic time watching the movie. The Warriors on 4K is, to me, the best release overall that we got in 2023. And when I think back on 2023, like I think back on 2022 and think of Roadhouse in 4K from Vinegar Syndrome, I will think of The Warriors on 4K. What a release. What a stunning transfer. The picture quality on this is excellent. Most of this movie takes place at night, but you could still see everything, make everything out so crystal clear. The outfits looked excellent, like the leather, red, maroon, jackets that the Warriors wear just looked incredible in 4K. Face, skin tones, like, I was just like, Arrow Video just doesn't miss. Like, when I watched this, I was like, Arrow Video is just, they're just the best. Like, that nobody does 4K like Arrow Video, and this represents the kind of 4K transfer that I like. This is the perfect 4K to me. Just a perfect natural grain structure to it, perfectly highlighting all of those colors with that HDR, the range of colors, the Dolby Vision, the contrast levels, and the outdoor scenery. Just everything looked incredible. So many different colorful characters in this film wearing so many different colorful outfits. They really put so much into the costume design in this, and it really shows in 4K. So I was just blown away by this, the theatrical cut and the director's cuts in 4K. There's some great features on this as well. There's a new interview with the director, Walter Hill. There's a 2-hour sit down with filmmakers talking about this movie and the importance in film, the importance to them, inspiring them to make films, which was super awesome. So many great features here. This box set's incredible as well. Big booklet in here, posters, just all the things. This is such a great, fantastic release from Arrow Video. So I had to put it in at number 1. I think I said that too. When I reviewed this, I said this might be the best release that I've seen all year. Of course, I always think about recency bias, right? Like, I just watched this like a month ago. I just watched this and reviewed this a month ago. I always think about recency bias, but I really feel like of all the 4Ks I watched this year, this one just really stands out. Regardless of if I just watched it or not, I just feel like this one really stands out as one of the best that I've seen all year. And the movie is freaking great. I love the film. Now, I had seen it before, but like watching it again, I just fell in love with it again. So I love The Warriors on 4K. Thought it looked great. So there you go, guys. That's my top 15 4Ks with 7 honorable mentions. It was really a top 16 because I have Barbenheimer in there. But 23 titles I covered here today. I consider these to be the best of 2023. But let me know in the comment section below, what do you consider to be the best of 2023? Your top 10, your top 15, your top 20 4Ks. Let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe, like, and turn on those bell notifications for all future videos. And follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description. And we'll see you next time.